Hey, what's up, Webmafis? Welcome back to the commute, and in this video we will be exploring about companion objects in Kotlin. It's one of the most interesting questions to be asked in an interview. Companion objects involve a lot of things. We'll be talking about that, and for now, let's get started. In order to introduce to you the companion objects, first you know how to make class in Kotlin, right? Hopefully you do that. Let's just make a class, right? Name. Now, what are companion objects? As you can see, in Kotlin, a companion object is a singleton object that is associated with its enclosing class. It allows you to define members such as functions or properties that can be called without creating an instance of the class. If you come from a Java background, you might think of companion object as an alternative to static members, but with several added benefits. We'll look into that. Let's get started with companion object. Now, this is how we create a simple companion object. Now, what does this even do? Pretty simply, if we say just our engine, right, some kind of string, and let's just say engine. A vehicle has an engine variable inside of it, and we want to access it without actually making the class itself. Normally, how would we initialize a class and then we will be able to call engine? That's how things will be. But since this is inside of a companion object, we can just call directly without even making the initializer of this class. This is what companion object. It's singleton in nature because there's an object here. Now, what do you mean by singleton object? A companion object, of course, there's an object inside of it. It means that the instance of this object, the companion object, does not change even if we create different instances of the vehicle. This companion object is being shared across different instances of the vehicle, and we will get the same engine instance. So this is singleton in nature. We will not be seeing anything. It is created only once when the class is first initialized, okay, and it is shared across different instances of the class whenever it is created. Maybe vehicle is created second time, but the engine instance will remain the same. As you can see, it's just printing out engine OF right here. It allows you to define members such as functions, properties. Okay, we can actually define functions as well, right? Now we can define functions as well and call them wherever we need. Engine on, engine. And here is engine on again. After calling the function turn engine on, hopefully it makes sense, right? That can be called without creating an instance. The class here, we do not call the instance of the class, and we can still access the variables and the functions inside of the companion object. It is much similar to how Java uses static members. If you understand static members, that's exactly what companion object is. Now, let's try to understand the basic syntax of this companion object. Let's try to observe some of the features of why do we even use companion object. Okay, this is class. This is how you create a simple class, and then we have a companion object. Now, here are some of the features of companion objects and why do we even use them? Why do we use companion object? Now, first is factory method. They provide a natural place to define factory methods. This is useful when you want to control the creation of the class instances. We use actually factory methods inside of the companion objects, and we create the new instances of the class by calling this particular factory method inside of this companion object. We create new instances of the class. Now, if you do not understand factory method or factory pattern, it's just that different instances of the class can be created depending upon whatever input is given to the function. Right, this is how factory methods work. Constants and utility functions, grouping constants and helper functions together keep your organized code. This is an example of constants and functions being grouped inside of companion objects. Encapsulation. They allow you to encapsulate class level functionality, reducing global namespace pollution. Now, this particular encapsulation seems like a very difficult thing to understand, but it's not. It just simply means that instead of using the global namespace, it means that instead of defining it globally like this, instead of defining the functions and variables globally that do not play a lot of role inside of class, we can actually copy and paste it inside of the companion object, so they are not polluting the global space, and we can actually do whatever we want to do with this particular class. The class has a certain function and we want to make sure the class does that. Interoperability with annotations like JVM static companion objects members can be posed as true static members to Java code. As you know, if you are trying to actually use Java and trying to make this particular vehicle interoperable, we need to make sure that we are using JVM static variable here, static annotation here. So let's try to explain factory methods to you guys. Let's just say there's a user here, and this is let's just say private constructor. It means that the constructor has been privated. We cannot create the instance of this class directly. We have to somehow use something else to create this class. How can we do that? What we can do is make a companion object here and create a factory method user dot new user, and say new user as Hitesh. This is a different instance of the class new user Hitesh 2 is a different instance of the class, and that is exactly what is happening. Hopefully you can see that here. As you can see, these are two different instances of the user right here. As you can see, these are two different instances of the user. Hopefully you can see this thing, and this is how we create factory methods. The factory method has been created inside of companion object, and we can create new instances by calling this factory method, and that is what is one of the use cases of companion objects. Hopefully you understood them. Now, looking at the advanced features, we can actually do the naming of companion object. Class config. Okay, of course I need to create brackets here, and of course the config needs to be in capital. Let's just say there's a companion object called settings. Now it makes sense. The config has a companion object of settings, and we can actually name it right here, and just say var constval brightness under it, nits. Okay, something like that. Under it, whatever it is, brightness is 100. Okay, we can just use config dot set brightness. Okay, and it helps us access it directly, but let's just say that we want to access it with settings dot brightness. We can also do that. It's not exactly useful, but this is how we use name companion objects. We can do that right here. Hopefully it makes sense, and it's actually much more readable. That config settings, then we have brightness here. It's much more readable. It depends on the use case of naming companion objects. This is one of the features of advanced features of companion objects. Okay, another advanced feature of companion object. Let me quickly make some space for you guys. Let's just say another advanced feature of companion objects is actually implementing interfaces. Now, if you do not know, actually companion objects can implement interfaces, which is different from the static members in Java, which cannot do so. I think so, it cannot. But yeah, this is something interesting. Let's just say we have an interface, not 9j. We have an interface. This thing, yeah, interface does not have some kind of constructor. We have a fun log. Simple as that. A simple, interface here. And what we'll do is create some kind of class. Let's just say utils. Okay. And then we have companion object here. Again. And what we do is companion objects get, use interfaces. So we, instead of using oh god, okay, now as you can see, this is an object, and it starts to give me implement members, and this is done. And what we will do is println log it here. Okay, and then we try to actually use it somewhere, like utils.log. Okay, there's something else. Utils.log. Yeah, it requires some kind of stuff. Hitesh, log it here. Let's just say log it. Okay, simple as that. What it will do is log it here, Hitesh. As you can see, this is a companion object. It is implementing some kind of interface, and it has some kind of log function inside of it, and we are able to access it right here. And this is how we do interfaces in companion objects. Hopefully it makes much more sense. Now, another advanced feature of companion object was JVM. Using JVM, we have already seen the use case of JVM static, so that was that. And these were some of the features of companion objects. Hopefully it makes them much more clear, you guys. Now, another good interview question would be, what is the difference between another good interview question would be, what is the difference between companion objects and an object? What do you mean by that? Let's try to look at that. Do this thing. Let's try to look at the difference between companion objects and objects. Let me write them down. Okay, versus let's try to see the differences between the two. If you know about objects, we can definitely create one here, right? This is a singleton object, and this is a companion object. Now, what is the difference between this and this? As you can see by the structure itself, the companion object cannot be created outside of a class. We cannot directly create it like this. In a very layman's language, this is one of the differences between these two. Okay, hopefully it makes it much more clear. Now, companion object is instantiated for the first time as soon as the containing class is loaded. It means that it is instantiated even if we have not used the companion object. This object, however, is initialized lazily when we try to access it for the first time. Objects should be named, whereas companion objects may or may not be named. Another difference was that objects are initialized lazily, whereas companion objects are loaded with the classes. Okay, that makes sense, right? This is how things are done. Another thing is the difference in the use cases of these two. The object itself is most probably used for singleton way and using singleton pattern, whereas companion objects is mostly used to create static-like behavior that we see in Java. So the difference in the use cases, of course, is one of the differences. A use case of objects is singleton pattern, whereas companion objects are used for static behavior. I hope it makes sense, right? So these are all the differences of companion objects versus objects, and hopefully these were really clear to you guys. If you enjoyed companion objects, the differences, the features, the use cases, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.